Can you judge a book by its cover? Yeah, you can. Should you? No, probably not. Have you ever come across some weird paperback book cover online that was so outlandish, so aggressive, so crazy, so intriguing that you had to find an actual copy of that paperback and give it a read, only to discover that it's nothing nearly as cool as the cover itself? Well, that's kind of what this video is about. I'm talking about this book. What is this even called? What is this? I've actually forgotten. It is called The Mind Masters Shambhala, #2. And this book is a bit of a #2. I didn't finish reading this. This book, I started to read it. Here's what this video is about. I'm going to try to give this book another chance because I bought this years ago, and I think I maybe got 30 or 40 pages into it, and I did not like this at all. But the cover is so damned cool, and the synopsis on the back is extremely intriguing. It's got all the elements that you think someone like myself would enjoy. But when I tried to read this a couple years ago, I don't even remember it being bad. It was just so damned boring that I couldn't get through more than 30 or 40 pages or whatever it was. I'm not even sure where I left off in this thing. Hang on a second. Let me just show you a better image of what this cover looks like, and then I'll read you what's on the back of it, and then hopefully that'll give you some indication as to why I think I paid like $60 for this thing. It was some crazy amount for this sort of paperback. It was a lot more than it deserves. It doesn't deserve $6 from what I remember. But anyways, let me show you and talk to you about the back cover. All right, so hopefully you can see this much better now. Again, this is called The Mind Masters, and apparently it's #2 in a series. I typically, just out of principle, I don't read things that are in a series. That's just like a marketing scam, in my opinion, and just drags the reader along and makes them buy more and more and more. And half the time, they never even actually get to the point of the thing by the time it's done. If it ever ends, a lot of these things just run on forever. So I don't know how many of these Mind Master Shambhala books there are, but this is #2, okay? And this is by an author named John F. Rossman. I don't know who John F. Rossman is. I've never read anything else by him, but the little tagline here is Brit St. Vincent tangles with a master of the occult and an army of sex slaves in a psychic war to the death. Now, right off the bat, that is intriguing. That's right up my alley. I don't know about the Brit St. Vincent name. Those kind of fake sort of soap opera names kind of irritate me, but tangling with masters of the occult and armies of sex slaves, psychic wars, all that is just totally right up my alley, right? Then you look at the cover. Now, I'm going to have to probably put some little things on the nipples here so you don't see them, but you got a guy with a gun. There's girls getting undressed. I don't know if these two are having, if they're copulating or what they're doing back there, or if he's holding her hostage. I don't know. Apparently, this guy here is Brit St. Vincent, and then you got some weird tape machine, because I got to look and see when this was published, but microfilm and all that kind of James Bond stuff was probably big. Some other guy taking a little squat here, like he's taking a dump, shooting a gun. But then this is what really intrigued me. This naked chick tied to an upside down cross. And she's deliberately upside down because her hair is hanging down and all that kind of stuff. So this cover, I saw this online at some point years ago. I'm like, oh, wow, what the heck is that? I ain't never read anything like that. Let me see what that's about. And then after I did some research, I ended up finding some more images of it. And I came across someone that did a scan or a picture of the back cover. So here's the synopsis of this thing. Let me read this to you. To the public, Brit St. Vincent is a great Grand Prix racing driver. To the Pentagon, Brit is a dangerous renegade psychic scientist. The fact that there's even such a thing as a psychic scientist, like science and psychics, there was a period in our history where those two things did intertwine. So I found that intriguing as well. To a vast secret organization known as Miro, Brit is a vital agent in a global struggle against the dark occult forces menacing humanity. Man, that is just right. That's just great. If anyone gave me that plot line, I'd be like, okay, whoever this Brit fellow is, he sounds like an interesting person to read, of whom to read his adventures. So Shambhala finds Brit in the heart of the Black Forest, where deep below a ruined castle, the occult master of Nazi Germany lives on. Okay, wait a second. So there's nothing Nazi on the front of this, right? But then I'm reading in the back, I'm like, holy cow. So now this got all kind of Nazi stuff going on in it too. Combining ancient psychic secrets with modern computer technology and using beautiful girls as irresistible weapons of seduction and destruction. This monstrous figure makes even Brit his seemingly helpless prisoner and pawn as the world trembles on the brink of total, terrifying enslavement. Now, you got to admit, if even if this book has like a third of that in it, it would be worth the read, because that is very, very compelling, especially for a fellow like myself. I saw that and I kind of just fell out of my chair, and I went and I found this thing. Well, it says something else here. Prepare yourself for a sanity shattering orgy of satanic sex and hellish mind violence as you descend with Brit to the ultimate depths of evil. So yeah, I fell out of my chair and I found this thing. I forget where I got it, probably on eBay or something like that. And I know I paid way more for this than it was worth, because like I said earlier, I didn't even finish reading it. I didn't even get a third of the way into it, I don't think. I'd be very surprised if I finished reading this thing. I don't know where I left off. I didn't put a bookmark in it or anything, but my plan is to give this thing another chance and to see if I can get through it and then come back to you and talk to you about it. But my gut tells me that I'm probably not going to get through it either a second time here. But anyways, let me just read this to you here. Plunge into danger. The girl called Gretchen stood in the doorway of Brit's room. She had stripped off the white nylon jumpsuit of a pit bunny. I guess that's in motocross racing and stuff. I guess the girls that hang out with the drivers. I never understood why that was even a thing, really. I mean, I guess from a spectator perspective, but why these girls would be attracted to these race car drivers is beyond me. They're all like 3 foot tall and goofy looking. But anyways, nylon jumpsuit of a pit bunny, and now stood totally nude, her fantastically beautiful body poised invitingly for the famous race car driver. Brit had been a week without a woman. Oh, that poor man. It's been a whole week without a woman. Jeepers creepers. He should try living in the 2000s. But even his hunger could not explain the irresistible force he felt attracting him. Even as his arms went around the girl and he felt her pulling him toward the bed, the remarkable powers of his mind began to send out psychic warning signals of an unknown danger. But it was too late. He could not stop now. And this is in italics for some reason. And Brit entered the sinister, soul-destroying web woven by the mummy-like master of the diabolical underground kingdom of Shamballah. So this is reminding me why I found this book boring. Despite everything that I have said, and despite the fact that this cover legitimately interested me in the book, I do not like reading anything pornographic at all. Like, I find reading about like the details of sex scenes utterly boring. It's one of those things that if you want that, I just I would assume that a visual of that would satisfy that need much more than reading, especially when it's written for. I'm assuming this is written for a male reader, but I do know a lot of that, you know, steamy romance or borderline pornography that was put into paperback form like this was probably purchased by women too. But I have to imagine, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit of a chauvinist, but I just don't think that most women would be. I don't think that the demographic for John F. Rossman was women. I think it was more likely men. And men are more visual creatures. I don't understand the appeal of reading this sort of stuff. Also, I guess what I'm trying to get at, I'm making a roundabout point here, but I do recall reading the bits of this that I've read, and like the sex scenes that are in here are not like you don't get into the minds of the people participating in the sex. Like, I think the appeal for this sort of smut that for women readers is that it is a bit more into the mind of the man that they're potentially attracted to in the stories. You know what I mean? Like, they're more cerebral, possibly. I've never read any of that either, but I would have to assume that women who read smut, they read it because of the relationship between the characters more so than just a text description of the act itself. And this, from what I recall, the sex scenes in this were very much more like just text descriptions of this thing goes here, this thing goes there, and stuff like that. And there was a lot more. I'm getting ahead of myself. I may be misremembering this. I think that I recall there being just way more smut in this than I had expected, and it kind of just made the whole thing boring to me. But let me not get ahead of myself. I'm going to give this book a fair chance, a second try, going into it with an open mind. No preconceived notions. I'm going to do my best to forget what I recall about it. And I'll be right back to you and I'll give you my thoughts. Okay, people, I got some notes for you. I picked up where I think I left off. I skimmed the first, I left off around page 40 or something. I skimmed the first bit until page 40 just to get a remembrance of what this thing was about. And then I quickly read from 40 onward. And the first thing I'll just tell you is that this book, The Mind Masters, #2, Shambhallah, is not good. It's not good, but it's not as bad as I remembered the first bit that I read being. So here's what I got to tell you. The first note on this page is that this book is mostly filler. It's mostly talking. It's this guy, Britt, talking to other people about stuff that he plans to do that he kind of eventually gets around to doing, but it's just mostly all dialogue. It's very, very boring. There's only like 2 real sex scenes in it. And when I read this before, I stopped right after the first sex scene. And I just assumed that the rest of the book was going to be a whole bunch of that. And it's not. But the first sex scene is just absolutely obnoxious. It is boring as hell. And it's an entire chapter. The entire chapter is just about the sex scene. And it is, I guess you could call it graphic. It's literal is what it is. It's not like, it doesn't, I can't imagine anybody like reading this and getting themselves all excited about it. It almost reads like just a series of facts of what happens during this long sex scene. And it really, the whole satanic element of this, it doesn't happen. You don't even get a glimpse of anything satanic until 80 pages into the book. And even then, it's almost like there's Satanist stuff happening, but it's not a key component of the plot. This book came out in the 70s. I didn't say that earlier. It's 1974, if I remember correctly. And 1974 was like peak Satanism in terms of like film and music and culture and everything. And this book does not reflect that at all like I had hoped it would. Everything that it says you're going to get, you do get in this book. It's just you get it in kind of like a chintzy manner. It's like things were put in there that are on the back cover, but they don't all connect in any sort of way. They're not integral to the plot, and they're all in there in a very casual manner, outside of any sort of action. In fact, one of my biggest complaints is very little action in this whole thing. The only action that's really taking place, like in terms of like kinetic action, is when this Brit fella's in his race car, and there's a lot of race car scenes in it. And the race car scenes are described with just as much detail as the sex scenes. And like you get to learn about how Brit shifts gears and the popping sound from the exhaust and the number of bends he's going around and how fast he's going and what he's looking through the windshield to see as he's driving around. It's really just a snooze fest as far as I'm concerned. What else do I got here? Okay. All right. I read into it. I got to page 91. Like I said, I was reading quickly. When I got to page 91, I just felt hopeless and having much interest in the story. The book's over there. Let me go grab it and I'll tell you what happens at page 91. There's a scene where I don't even remember why. It doesn't matter why, but Brit, is it Brit or is it Brett? Those are 2 names that just, I don't know. Have you ever known anyone decent named Brit or Brett? Those are kind of like quarterback names or something. Anyways, Brit, it is Brit. For whatever reason, he's stark naked. and he's wandering around outside of this palace or something like that. I am actually going to read this. It says here, and now, retracting his path, Britt starts quickly climbing back up the black hillside. His naked body heats with exertion. Perspiration bends. No, I'm sorry. Perspiration beads on his brow. Steam trails from his flesh. And his scrotum, which had contracted up against his body in the cold, oh, poor Britt, now hangs loose, swinging against his hot, hard inner thighs as they thrust his body up the incline. I read that and I said, I'm out. I skimmed the rest of this book to get to the end just to see what the conclusion is. But at that point, 90 pages is like maybe a third of the way through it. I don't need to know that. I don't need to know the condition of this man's scrotum. It doesn't matter to the plot. That's what I'm saying. It's like, who is the audience for this? Maybe this is made for women, or maybe it's made for gay men. I don't know. But the stuff that involves women in it is just as matter-of-factly explicit as that as well. So I skipped ahead a bit when I read about Britt's scrotum, went to page 120, and there's a section in here. It's one of those like Scooby-Doo moments where the main villain has the hero, if you can call Britt a hero, in his clutches, and he just tells him his whole plan, you know. And there's literally 10 pages of the villain describing his plot and his plan and what he wants to do with the world and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, it's comic book silliness. Nobody does that in real life, nor should they. This book does have all the ingredients of things that I would like to read about in a story. So in addition to all the stuff I mentioned to you earlier in this video, there's a whole like Egyptology thing going on with this, with like the pyramids and what the pyramids are made for and how the pyramids can harness and project psychic energy and stuff. There's alien stuff in here, which I like a lot. Okay, I told you about the Nazi stuff before because that was on the back of the book. But the cool stuff about the Nazi stuff is the technology. There's all this mythology that Nazis were building UFOs and all these high-tech gadgets and stuff like that. None of that is true, but the concept of it is intriguing in a fictional realm. And there's some of that Nazi technology in this as well. And then it also has the concept of the egregore. I love the concept of the egregore. The egregore is like if you were to visualize someone's psychic energy, almost like their aura. But an aura in fiction or in like anime or something is more like a flame or like a dome or something that forms around the character. An egregore is where the thing takes shape of something distinct. It takes the shape of something, and the thing that it takes the shape of is a representation of that person's psychic energy or that person's spirit, if you will. And this deals with egregore stuff. Now, it deals with it from the perspective of this Nazi mad scientist. He's like harnessing psychic energy from these women that he's got them strapped onto some kind of mechanism, like some sort of table, and they're basically getting pleasured. But it's weird because it's pleasure, but it's not, by a machine, okay? Some sort of machine. And the machine does one thing to one part of their body and another thing that is painful to another part of their body. Both of those parts of the body are very near each other. The combination of this pleasure and pain at this particular region of these women's bodies causes them to spontaneously produce egregores. If this was like put into any other book, I might be like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll keep reading. But the way these things are described, what's happening to these women, it's just boring to read. It's boring, and there's no imagination behind that. I guess the concept's imaginative, but the prose is not imaginative. It's just so matter of fact. Somehow the whole thing climaxes, no pun intended, climaxes with Britt winning a race with his race car. I didn't understand any of that because I had skipped to that point. So that's that. If anybody's a collector of these books, I could understand someone being a collector of this sort of thing just for nostalgic purposes. If you want this book, because I know it's hard to find, send me a message and just make me an offer and I'll send it to you because I don't want it anymore. If you want it, message me. If you don't want it, I don't blame you. And with all that being said, thanks for watching this video, I guess. Bye.